Hello, Next Geners. It's a wintry day in Melbourne. The skies have opened up, and that's going to make for a tricky day at the Valley, I reckon. But we've got a nice card at Randwick to look at as well. Hayden Byrne joins me. Hayden, I thought Monday's show with Sam Lyons gave us a bit of insight into what goes through the mind of a syndicator, especially with the jockey merry-go-round going on at the moment.
Yeah, it was a really good, enjoyable interview, wasn't it? Not so much an interview, it was more a chat between the three of us about what goes on in the world of a syndicator. It was very enjoyable, and yeah, I think we got a bit out of it.
Well, we've had 2 Group 1 meetings in a row. I'm 2 from 2. Knocked you off both times, and we don't have a Group 1 this week, so I'm not sure I can provide the punters any winners. So I'm relying on you, mate. We've got some nice questions on the Facebook page. We're going to have a look at mostly Randwick. Give us your reasons why, because obviously heading into this podcast, you thought that the Valley was going to be a tricky assignment tomorrow. Clearly, there's 2 nice races that we'll have a chat about, but it looks like it's going to be a tough day at the Valley punting-wise.
Yeah, I just thought that we could go into Sydney tomorrow with a bit of confidence in terms of A, track condition, and B, with an expectation on how that track's going to play. So I thought it was the cleaner of the 2 meetings. There's a lot of unknowns about the Valley. It's the sort of where, when it comes to doing form and profiling meeting like the Valley, I would like to basically take notes in terms of the form tonight, yesterday and today, in terms of mapping, positioning, expectations of rail placement. Then when you get into the form tomorrow, you can dig a little bit deeper. You can you can go into the meeting with an expectation of track pattern, but one thing that's going to probably the $1 million question is how much water is going to get onto that track and what sort of effect is it going to have. The last time we see Moonee Valley, they didn't have any excessive weather come up. They hadn't raced on it for a period of time, and that inside ground was just basically a no-go zone. So what sort of damage is any water going to do to that? Do you go back to the 2 meetings where we had similar weather leading into Moonee Valley? We had one where I think it was abandoned after race 6 or something. Yeah. And basically, once you landed in front, it was over. And then we go back to All-Star Mile Day, where anything inside of 6 off the fence was quicksand. So extremely difficult meeting to look at. I would want to be doing my form for on-speed leader stalker advantage, and then take note on those who do get through a bit of give in the ground and do look to get into wider lanes in the bigger fields. And then you can basically to and fro advantage wise where you move them in terms of your chessboard on the day, but difficult punting day there.
Yeah, and I don't want to toot the horn too much, but we've had profitable days the last 2 weeks, and I don't see why we would go into this meeting and just punt for the sake of it and just throw away profit that we've made over the last 2 weeks. I'd rather keep the powder dry and maybe have a look at Sydney for a couple of bets. But, we're in for a long spring. You don't have to bet every race for the sake of it, but we do like to analyse certainly the big races where some of these good horses are heading on to bigger and better grand finals. We're going to skip the first 4 races at Randwick because they really are just sort of benchmark 72 type races. There's a Class 3, a benchmark 78 and 272. So we're going to go straight to race 5 at Randwick. It's a nice one to start with, Hayden. The Tab Concord Stakes over 1,000 metres. Nature Strip's the $1.50 favourite. I'm really excited to see him back. He's had, I'm not sure if the first trial was private, but he's had 2 jump outs or trials leading into this meeting tomorrow and hasn't been missed by the punters. Then you've got horses like Wild Ruler and Trekking. I'm just trying to get up the tab market here so we can see what odds they are behind Nature Strip. So he's $1.50. A Wild Ruler might actually be non for both, but I think he's going to run in Sydney at $4.40. Third favourite's Trekking at $7. Adelong 15. Standout 19. Handle the Truth 61. Starboy 126. Standing Bear 151. What have you made of Nature Strip's jump outs?
Fast horses typically jump out fast.
Mm.
And when you could be classified as possibly the fastest horse, there's a level of expectation that you are going to do that. So, we all like to get excited and watch, fast horses dominate. I think he's come back in his typical order. He's been a very, very consistent horse now for the best part of 2 to 3 years. You know what you're going to get, basically. You've got an outstanding 1,000-metre profile. He's just a good horse and he's a fast horse. And the thing that I really took out of this race was I've got an expectation here that he's the best 1,000-metre horse in the race. I think on talent, the two biggest rivals to him don't have 1,000-metre profiles.
Yep.
So for me, I thought the $1.55, $1.60 was justified and might be overs.
Okay. Let's just break it down a little bit further. First up, last prep, the Lightning Stakes in the autumn. Jamie Carr on board down the straight was $3.70, drifted out to $4.40 against September Run and won that by half a length. Pretty nice win. This race last year, he ran first up against G-Tra, started $1.30 or was $1.35, drifted to $1.45, got beaten by G-Tra. And then the prep before in the spring, again, first up in the Lightning Stakes, $1.45 and ran fourth. I think he was on the wrong side of the track that day, but probably wasn't beating G-Tra that day. And then 2 years ago, first up in this race, $2.30, beaten in fourth as well by Red Zell. Now, we obviously dive a little bit deeper into the figures. You actually go back to those runs, like this run last year where he ran second to G-Tra. What was it? A plus 6 type performance, wasn't it, first up?
First up last campaign, he was second best of the day, 5.4 lengths above IVR benchmark.
Yeah, that was in the Lightning, wasn't it? Or is this the spring you're talking about?
In the Lightning, that was in the spring. In the Lightning, he was second best of the day, 4.2 lengths above IVR benchmark. Reality is 3 of his last 4 first up runs, he destroys this lot.
Yeah. And he's just had one really good horse up against him, right? Like G-Tra. There's no G-Tra in this race this year.
Well, G-Tra went to a new level last year, particularly early. He stamped himself as, he had a bit of a giant killer perspective about him. Nature Strip's first 2 runs last campaign were just outstanding. He was awesome down the straight, and then he was even more awesome going into Randwick.
Lost to Eduardo.
Narrowly defeated by Eduardo. You can look at statistics as raw statistics, but raw statistics can be extremely deceiving. The reality is he's just an outstanding sprinter who jumps, runs fast and runs time. And I just think he'll jump out here and smash the clock. The only question with these horses, and it's a very, very minor one, and is that they do, every year, they do get a year older. And they're year after year after year of high pressure, high speed racing. So the day, like every champion footballer, like every champion athlete, the day does come where it just gets all too hard. But you've just got to take him on face value. His trials indicate that he's going to come back in the same order as he has of recent times. You'd expect him to jump, be controlled through the first section, put in a dazzling mid-race, and be the horse to catch. The thing that he does get here, rail 4 metres, is going to be extremely favourable for him, and it'll play favoured on speed, which historically he normally, a lot of his Randwick performances have been rail true when he's been run down. So rail 4, huge advantage for this horse.
Yeah, it looks like he is a standout there. Would there be anything, like, is there a standout second that has a bit of value to place at all, or?
Depends race tactics, what they want to do with Wild Ruler. If they think they're going to go and sustain the mid-race that this horse is going to put on, if they think they're going to go and sit outside of him and sustain that, they're not going to. So he's a little risk there, but we'll see what that horse is made of. Trekking's the sort of horse you can run on, but he's not a 1,000-metre horse. He's getting older as well. I couldn't look away from him because I'm fearful for those close enough what level of damage he's going to do if J-Mac wants to really test them through the mid. So, it's a sort of race where you can think you find the right place money. If you sit on speed around him, he might bust you up. And if you're too far back, you won't get near him and you've just got to chase those down. And then you go to horses like Standing Bear. I've never even heard of it.
Yeah. All right. Quick question here from James Allpress. Does Hayden expect Nature Strip to drift?
Interesting question. I'm not big on, I know it sounds funny for a person in my shoes, but I'm not big on prices. So in terms of what the robots may do with a horse like him, if they want to start to take on his first up record, possibly. That would be the only thing that I would say is the angle that they would look at to take him on in terms of the other fundamentals of the race.
It's probably
take him clearly on time.
I was also going to say, it's probably worth factoring in that the bookies hold a higher percentage now and are probably going to reduce that percentage as we get closer to the race.
Yeah, that's correct. So, what you get now, you'd expect to get race day.
Yeah, there's no reason to sort of jump in now, is there?
Nah, not at $1.50, mate.
No, I don't think so either. Race 6, it's a race for the 3-year-olds. Some nice 2-year-olds from last season. Some of them have already had a first up run. Most of them have that form coming out of Swift Witness, but She's All Class first up for Chris Waller, carrying the Bracey Silks is the $4.20 favourite. 4 Moves Ahead, who was third behind Swift Witness, is $5. Naj Marty comes from Melbourne, $5 as well. Swift Witness, $7. D. Ann Andretti, $8.50. Jamea, $14. Mallory, $14. I'm interested in this Enterprise Pom, who's had a couple of runs in Queensland, $23. Joyous Legend, $26, $34 the rest.
Good race. Friends of the show probably hear me harp on a little bit about She's All Class, a horse who I expect, I've stamped her for a while as a horse with some talent. I've also stamped her for a while as a horse who has a improving 3-year-old style of profile. So, I'm looking forward to her return. I'm not a big fan of my notes here. I've got synthetic hoof filler first time. Not a huge fan of that. It's nothing as drastic as a bar plate, etc. Did I freeze on your end, or do you just freeze on mine?
No, I was looking at the form guide, so we must have. I don't know who freezed on who, but yep, my form guide also says synthetic hoof filler first time.
Okay, so you got that. It's not as drastic as a bar plate or something, etc. But there's a little hiccup there that says there's a possible issue. I am looking forward to her return. I think Swift Witness is basically the benchmark I can draw on the race. Her first up performance at Randwick was solid. Wasn't outstanding. It was solid. She's overcome a mid-race slowdown, good late acceleration. The first section gave me an indication that she's pretty forward condition-wise and she might have toughened up a bit. So she can definitely go on from that. Najmardi was a real eye-catcher. The replay watchers would have seen that performance at Caulfield. Massive slowdown through the mid-race. Her late acceleration was excellent. Overall time, definitely nothing outstanding. And she got into the lanes late, which gave her a bit of artificial speed. A lot of banging on, she should have won and all that sort of rubbish. I don't buy into any of that. I just say that she's had a good first up run. This will be the measuring stick for her. She's going to need a PB, but she looks like she's come back as a 3-year-old. So, there is things to like there, and there's negatives that is she just, was that a little bit of a flash in the pan sort of run. So I'm neutral on that runner. I'm not buying into it as yet. I want to see a all-round performance before I go stepping into horses like that one. I'm happy just to let them go. If they beat me, I can run second or third to them and still win. I'm happy with that. Horse you mentioned, Enterprise Pom, 2 runs last campaign, Dooman and Eagle Farm. The Dooman run with a bit of give in the ground was good, 4th best of the day performance overall. Increase in speed, Eagle Farm, big slowdown, sustained speed late, nothing good acceleration-wise. Beaten by Alpine Edge, you've got a real flashy sort of profile, but hasn't done anything, hasn't smashed the clock in any sort of way. So another runner I'd be neutral on, but untapped and no ceiling, predominantly because of the hasn't had a suitable race shape as yet. So difficult race. She's All Class and Swift Witness, definitely the horses I'm looking around from Najmati.
Okay, that's fair. And they're all sort of around the $4.20 She's All Class and $5 4 moves ahead, and Najmati Swift Witness 7. So look, there's a little bit of value there. I don't have a strong feeling either way. I just thought that $23 and $23.06 a place Enterprise Pom. I was interested to hear your thoughts there. So it might be one for value players. Next race is the Tramway, race 7. We see the Cox Plate favourite Zaaki make his return to the track. He had 3. He's won 3 in a row. His win at Doomben, 2 starts back, was next level. We're talking superstar status here. That was over 2,000 metres. He resumes over 1,400. I don't think we've seen him run over 1,400 in Australia yet. And he's $2.10. So there'll be a few questions in the Facebook group about him, which we'll get to. Dreamforce, $8. Rock, $9.50. All Saints Eve, 10. Lions Roar, 11. Star of the Seas, 11. Prime Star, 11. Shout the Bar, 16. Man of Peace, 34. Aramayo, 41. Gives you a take on Zaaki, first up, 1,400 metres.
Well, he's the headline act of the spring, isn't he? If you picked out the one horse in Australia that could potentially go to superstar level, the one at the moment, the one level under the sort of champion mode, he might be the big boy of the carnival. See what occurs with him. In terms of his 1,400 metre profile, you can look at it on raw statistics and say, okay, back in Great Britain, his 1,400 metre profile wasn't outstanding. His overall profile in Great Britain wasn't outstanding. He was a good horse and he was a nice horse, but he's adapted really well to the Australian climate and he's adapted really well to Australian racing. If he was running the sort of IVR numbers back in England that he is here, there's no way in the world he ever would have been sold, and he'd be a monster over there. So, there's 2 ways to look at him. I'm a little bit dismissive of his OS profile, and I'm happy taking him on what I've seen from here. It's never easy when they've got to go through the process that he went through. He came here fit. He was quarantined. He's basically saddled off the back for, they saddle off the back for 60 to 70 days or so to get them up and going. He was trialled and then he went out and he was spelled for 200 odd days. He's returned Randwick and he was straight into, he had the 2 barrier trials leading up and then he went straight to a mile last campaign where, he's run around horses like Forbidden Love, Avilius, behind Cascadian Ice Bath, etc. So
yeah,
it was the eye-catching.
Wasn't just any mole, it was the Doncaster.
No, that's right. So he's gone straight into that, and the replay watchers have found him out of the Doncaster as being, one of the runs of the race. His late sectional speed was excellent. He handled the good mid-race squeeze. It wasn't an overly easy day to run time. There was a bit of sting out of the ground. He's not a genuine wet tracker. He's a lover of dry ground. So, there was plenty to like about his return there. Then he went to Randwick. He's 6th best of the day performance overall, narrowly beaten by Paths of Glory. They've gone through the roof. Then he progressed to the Gold Coast. Then he ran the monster at Doomben. It was breathtaking, best of the day, 9.3 lengths above, and just smashed everything. And then he was equally strong again, Eagle Farm 2200. So where does he sit 1400 metres? Well, he's got a ton of residual fitness coming in here. He's had the shorter break, the 84 days. He's had the barrier trial. His barrier trial was 9th of August. So he's been up for a month. He's been race fit for a month.
Mm.
So his break, he would have been in the paddock a week. So he comes here, he's going to have a ton of residual fitness. And he's proven he can sprint well, and he can sprint well early in his campaign, and he gets a crack at it here on dry ground. So all things being really equal, he's impossible to fault. You're going in with a couple of unknowns, but you're probably getting the price to justify it. You're getting black figures. I thought he'd be tomato sauce. I could think of worse horses to be having something on at that price.
Question from Pompey was, so Zaaki, 4 runs at the 1400, no wins, no placings, and it's not his grand final. But do the numbers say he's got this field covered anyway? What do you factor in? This is a horse that is favourite for the Cox Plate. You mentioned, obviously, he's got that residual fitness. Do you factor in intent in the trainer's mind when it comes to trying to win a race like this first up?
Well, how far are we off from a Cox Plate?
About seven weeks, I'd say.
So if you've got a ton of residual fitness from a late winter campaign and you're going to win a Cox Plate in 7 weeks, you'd want to be pretty fit. You'd want to be ready to rock and roll. And if you're going to win a Cox Plate, you've got to, it's a weight for age race. It's not like you're going to cop a penalty or anything for winning on the way. And you don't want to break a horse's winning nature. You would expect a horse of his caliber. And if he's going to get to where he's going to, he'd knock these off. Like, he'd use it as a trial and beat them. There's a couple of little X factors in the race. Rail 4, you go back. Dreamforce is starting to get a little bit long in the tooth, but he looked to try and squirt away from him. First up this campaign, wrong part of the track towards that inside. They got out really wide. Moanga, Very Ellen were flush in the lanes. Those who made the artificial stuff up down the outside got really wide and swooped him late. He was only beaten 3. He's going to get track advantage here. Nash back on. Is he the one who's going to kick and give him something that's mighty hard to catch? The other one who looks like he could run into the numbers, he's an out-and-out dry tracker and haven't seen the best of him as yet, might be Lions Raw. Prime Star's definitely returned in good order, as has Rock. But can they turn it around and go to the level they're going to need to beat Zaaki? Looking at the race, you'd say Dreamforce is going to go somewhere in benchmark, maybe +2 odd from the front. I'd have him that being the measuring stick. Zaaki's got to run better than 2 if you're going to win a Cox Plate in 7 weeks. So for me, it's Zaaki on top. I expect him to win and win well. Then I'm looking at Dreamforce, Lions Raw, and then the other 2 that I mentioned, Rock and Prime Star.
James Allpress, is Zaaki the moral of the day in Sydney?
He's not going to get the favours in the track pattern that Nature Strip's going to get. So Nature Strip's going to get a far more favourable track pattern, and he's going to get a golden race shape. So he is the better winning chance. The market will reflect that, but he has the better winning chance than Zaaki. Zaaki does have to overcome a couple of negatives.
All right. My sort of take on the horses behind Zaaki, Star of the Seas is a horse that we know a couple of preps in a row, second up, has produced +5 numbers. I think he did it second up last prep at Flemington in the Blamey with 50 stars, but his first up run last prep was much better than his first up run behind Mwanga. He finished 13th or 14th in that race and was -3. 3 lengths below benchmark. So it looks to me, I would find it hard to see him elevate all the way to that sort of anywhere near his peak. He looks like he might, I don't know. I want to see him run again before I back him. And Lions Raw was the other one that I looked at. He's had 2 jump outs or trials leading into this, but he produced his really nice figure second up, beating Mwanga last prep. I think it was the Randwick Guinea. So I'll be looking for Lions Raw at 1,600 second up. But yeah, I think Zaaki goes on top. And yeah, if we believe he can be as good as we think he can, as you said, he should be winning this race. The Chelmsford might be one of the better betting races of the day, although there's been a fair bit of money for Cascadian. He's now $2.80 here. Think It Over $4.80. She's Ideal $7.50. Shared Ambition $8.50. Cucaracha $8.50. Montefilia $16 and 21 the rest. Master of Wines among them at $23. A couple of horses that'll be maybe looking to get into Melbourne Cups like the Sydney Cup winner Celino and Riadini and Attorney maybe. But it looks like the 3 out of the Wink Stakes, they all produced really nice runs. There wasn't much between them. Cascadian finished 5th in that race, was only beaten a length, I think. Think It Over was 6th in that race. She's Ideal was the eye catcher running 3rd. You talked about track pattern. That might be what's against She's Ideal here, and you'll have Cascadian and Think It Over, who'll be a few lengths ahead of her in the run.
Yeah, it was a good race. It's an interesting race, particularly from a sectional and a statistical point of view, trying to line the two up and work out, okay, who was the better run and who's the horse that I'd like to be in the camp of moving forward into this. I can find positives and negatives with both. Think It Over's come basically a benchmark race shape through the first section, 0.6 length slowdown through the mid. Versus Cascadian, who's gone -2.7 through the first section, had a 3.6 length increase in speed through the mid. So one's going 0.9, the other's going 0.7. Cascadian going the faster of the two through the mid. So the acceleration between the 6 and the 4, 4 and the 2 from Think It Over was slightly better, even though the other one was numerically higher. Because it's done it off the slowdown, not the building run. But I was taken by Cascadian's late work, in particular the last 200. I'm not a big last two. I don't overemphasize the last 200, and it does suck a lot of people in. But I would have Cascadian coming down an inferior part of the racetrack in comparison to those right out wide. She's Ideal and co. And I thought the way he punched through the middle there, I was taken by his performance. And I've got a level of expectation here that he's going to trend pretty quickly towards that higher end of his profile from last campaign. In particular, his mile performance when he beat Ice Bath Dalasan in the big race, JLK, got the money on him. I think he's going to start to trend in that direction, which would make him pretty dangerous and hard to beat here. So I marked him marginally on top of the other one. I think to be an interesting betting race. I think there'll be parts of the day where they both want to get stuck into one and the other. She's Ideal. Those that ran on out wide in that race, I'd take them on from a track pattern perspective. They'll find it hard to make ground on leader and mid-division. She's Ideal, big friend of the show, one of my favourites. Definitely a horse that we want to keep an eye on because she's airborne. The horse who could upset the party is definitely Shared Ambition. He flies and flies early. He could easily go to somewhere around the level required to be very competitive. And the horse that I wanted to keep an eye on from a futures point of view is Kukaracha. I want to see how he comes back because there's definitely races this spring that he could be winning. Over to you.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, it sort of looks like a 2.5 is what's going to be needed to win here. So who's going to run that? Think it over. I think I'd expect him to run that 2 to 2.5. She's Ideal was 2 last start. Can she go again? I think the track pattern's against her. And then you're left with Cascadian, who he's probably got the best figures in the race, right? He can run to a +5, +6 if he had everything go his way. I don't think he's going to go anywhere near that, but he, he's the other one if he runs well. So, do you want to take $2.90 Cascadian, or, as you said, $4.80? Think it over. I think It Over's. You look at Think It Over's last 5 starts. He won the Liverpool, beating Creadiris, ran a good figure behind I Am Superman, running second in the Ajax. He won the George Ryder. And then he ran 4th to a Daben, very elegant in the Queen Elizabeth. And then I thought he got held up, had very little luck, and picked up nicely in the Wing Stakes first up this prep. So, I think he's going to run that 2.5. The question is whether Cascadian's going to run that, and he can as well. But I don't think there's that much between them. And when you're getting $2.80 Cascadian, $4.80 Think It Over, I don't know. I'm sort of leaning towards Think It Over, even though Cascadian's got the higher PB, probably the higher ceiling. But, interesting race. Race 9, it's a benchmark 78 handicap. Do you want to spend much time on this race?
I was taken by King of Sparta's performance. It's a Kem Lagrange performance, so I've got to be a little bit careful with it. He went to a new level. The interesting thing with this horse's profile is predominantly had his whole racing career on wet ground. He found dry ground genuine dry ground for the first time last start at Kembla, and he was dominant. It was a really, really good run.
Best of the day, wasn't it?
Yeah, 21 days in between. Ideal for him. He can fly here. I think he's a good horse. I'd love to see him do it at Randwick to stamp himself and to clarify that figure that we put on him last start. Geist is in excellent order and looks like it'll go on this campaign. And once you go away from those two, there's a couple down the bottom. Sarquin is one of them. Perry horse for Glenn Boss, and the other one's 8 Diamonds. They look progressive horses that could easily go to the level required to win. But King of Sparta is one of the more interesting runners on the day for me.
All right, and one I just want to mention is Bullfinch. When we had Tommy Berry on the show a couple of weeks ago, Tommy was booked to ride this horse. The horse got scratched. I can't remember if it was on air or before we started recording, but Tommy did tell us that he was he had a nice expectation that Bullfinch was going to run well in that race. So Bullfinch at $23 and $6 a place might be one to keep an eye on too. I don't know if you've got any strong opinion there.
Well, Bullfinch, his first up run was good. Might have travelled a touch fast for him through the first section, and he was busted up through the mid. He peaked 4.5 lengths above benchmark through the midsection. High speed 2.5 lengths above benchmark between the 8 and 6 left him exposed. He declined between the 4 and the 2 and maintained his speed late. So in terms of fitness, he's right there fitness-wise. 2 trials in between runs will have him spot on. He's got the crossover noseband and he's been gelded. So good horse. I've got a level of expectation about him as well. I have marked him down here on my notes as a runner that I need to watch very carefully.
Yeah. Okay. And last race of the day, 1,500 metre benchmark 94. A Tissue is putting a picket fence together and was outstanding. First up, I think it was plus 1.4 above benchmark. Just ridden well. There was even a little slowdown between the 4 and the 2. I thought Cisco Bay ran well in that race as well, was beaten a length in third, and you're getting nice odds about Cisco Bay in this race. So you're getting $3.30 favourite at Tissue. Matawatup, don't get me to say that. Kiwi horse's name, Byrne Baker, $7.50. $8.50 for Cepheus, the OTI horse, all-time legend, $8.50. You have to go down to $19 for Cisco Bay, which I thought was big odds. On Taunt, 26. Looks like there's a bit of value. Skylab's one that you've followed before at $18. But a Tissue has the picket fence against its name.
Yeah, he's going places at Tissue, and he really has that profile. That he's got that mile handicap written all over him. That's him. He looks like he's that horse. He's progressive, and he looks like he can take the next step. His performance at Randwick in his latest was jaw-dropping, to be honest. 3-length acceleration between the 6 and the 4. Big slowdown, 2.2 length slowdown between the 4 and the 2 when the rider come up for air and basically said, well, I got these covered. I'm going to be pretty easy on you here, and just letting go back through the gears again too to the finish. There was easily, he could easily give this horse 1 to 2 lengths on the 7th best of the day, 1.4 lengths above IVR benchmark. Performance from his latest, which would put him easily into the 2s. The 2s will be winning here. Again, race track pattern's not a blessing for him, but he's better than these, so he needs to overcome that, and he can. So for me, he was a little bit of a highlight runner on the day, and I've got a level of expectation about him now. Cepheus, however we want to say that. His performance at Kembla was excellent. His last 800 was really strong and sustained. It was just a sustained speed for 800 metres. He's got bigger fish to fry, this horse. Definitely a horse you want to keep a close eye on, and looks like the most likely to be able to really push a Tissue in this. The race falls away pretty quick. On Taunt would be an interesting mounting yard horse if it paraded rock solid, fit, ready to rumble. Matawatup looked like a bit of a giraffe, looked like just a big wet tracker. He's gone to the next level on the dry. He might be another one heading into that mile handicap sort of zone, or the 2nd, 3rd tier races above the spring. Big Boy Roy, I thought, was very disappointing at his last start at Randwick. I had a level of expectation that he would be winning. And I thought he fell in a hole over the last 200. I can forgive him a little bit for track, position in run, etc., but I can't give him a lot. The watch horse in the race, outside of those, is Charm Star. But good race at Tissue and Cepheus. We might see them in the handicap mile.
What did you think of Cisco Bay's run last start? Looked messy. I'm just looking at the data.
Cisco Bay last start 0.1 above.
Yeah, so it was beaten 1.3 by Tissue.
Yeah, big slowdown through, big slowdown forward to the 2, increased his speed, picked up best part of the track late, last 200. The question mark I've got with a horse like Cisco Bay is he's good, he's honest, and he's consistent. But his ceiling is a lot closer to where he is. He's 4 runs into the campaign. Fitness-wise, he's rock solid. Like, there's nothing left for him in terms of improvement and fitness, and he's approaching his ceiling. He's, for him to get into the 1s, it'd be a bit of an effort for him, in my humble. All right. So I expect these others to progress a lot faster than him.
Yeah, let's just look at Matawatup again, because I'm just looking at these Tissue stats where he ran 2nd. He's run plus 5.4 between the 8 and the 600. Then he's copped a 8 lengths slowdown, and he's gone minus 3.4 to the 6 to the 4. And then he's picked it up to break benchmark 4 to the 2. And then he's run the quickest last 200 of the race home. That's a savage slowdown.
He's another one who didn't have things go his way. And he showed late that he's pretty powerful. That's why I said he looked like a little bit of a wet tracker. He looked like a big giraffe previously. He's run time his last two. But again, I think he's got a ceiling and he's hitting it. So we're talking about a track that's racing pretty quick. So to see the big blazing sectionals, etc., you're going to get them. You can't get overly excited by them. And a lot of these horses have found faster ground in the straight. So got to be a little bit wary.
I'm going to go back and watch the replay of that because I don't think I've seen. Very rarely do you see those sort of sectionals and big slowdowns and picks up at speed. But Tisha was great last start. All right, before we flick over to Valley, was there did you want to sum anything up there at Randwick?
No, race 2, I thought we could. I thought Sebarose was a horse that we could keep on the radar. Selbarose, or whatever we want to call it, the Waller horse. It's one I want to keep an eye on. I've got a level of expectation about it. I was taken by its performance at Kembla. It's another one who looks like it's appreciating dry ground and is getting stronger into the campaign. So that was a horse that I was interested in. The danger I thought was On Florage, who's a really nice horse from the Cummings camp. And in that Class 3, a race that I rarely ever look at, just a horse I want to keep an eye on right down the bottom called Molly Nails. She's got the right profile to jump straight out of these highway style races. She's a nice horse and she's going places. But apart from that, I think we've got Sydney pretty much covered.
All right, I want to look at 2 races at Moonee Valley. As we said, we're expecting a track to deteriorate, so it might not be a great betting day. We've got the Ladbrokes Shataka Stakes Race 7, Bella Nipotina 480, away game 550, Pintoff 650, Wild Planet 8, Ancestry $8.50. We spoke about him on the review show a few weeks ago. ASAR 11, riddle me that 11, Front Page 17, Order of Command 18, Calcani Royale 18, Great Again 19, Express Pass 19, Dallasan 23, it's 26 the rest. This is not a bad little listed field. It's a shame the track's going to be shredded to pieces.
Yeah, it is. Good race. I think Bella Nipotina, it's D-Day for her. She was very good last start. And she's had that progressive profile all the way along. And I don't think, even to this point of her little life, I don't think we've seen the very best of her yet. We know from historical work that we've done on the show before that she is a horse who does appreciate some give in the ground, so that definitely won't hurt her. She's got the right style of profile for Moonee Valley. That won't hurt her either. One of her better runs has been on a Moonee Valley track with a bit of give in the ground. So might have even been Cox Plate Day by memory. So she's certainly a horse who is going to get a golden opportunity. The horse I wanted to keep a very close eye on, I didn't know it was called the Shataka Stakes because to me it just says Moonee Valley 1,200 metres, was the horse that will wear the Shataka colours, which was Wild Planet. Michael, Wayne, John, and Jai. He's a horse who 1,200 metres, he's a little bit underestimated at the sprint trip. And he's certainly very, very capable on tracks with give in the ground. He's got that get back run on style profile. And if he can jump and stalk and not be too far away from him, he's the style of runner that can get into those outside lanes and use that velodrome style kick off the corner at Moonee Valley and be dangerous. So for me, from a betting perspective, Bella Nipotina certainly makes the cut, as does Wild Planet, who I've got a circle around. And if conditions suit and track patterns on point, he's definitely a horse who could get into my betting strategy tomorrow.
All right, Jake Brady wants to know, is Front Page overs $17? He had a first up run off a 336-day break at Moonee Valley on the 21st, ran 4th to corner pocket, beaten 2 lengths. Would you see a sharp improvement from front page, second up?
He was good late. Recovered off a slow down, good acceleration forward of the 2. My memory was pulling his head off. And he just ripped home. Late sectionals were excellent, but he had a bludge early, as most of them did. Ocular went around him and blew him away. And he was definitely couldn't threaten corner pocket. He's had 336 days in between runs, so he's a horse who's progressive and can improve. But I'd be very, very surprised if he improves enough to beat these. But I'm not going to talk you out of it because he gets through wet ground. So I'm not going to talk you in and I'm not going to talk you out, and I'll leave that up to you to make your own mind up. But he's not in my numbers.
All right, hopefully that answers the question. Jake, let's have a look at the Feehan Stakes. Ticket into the Cox Plate. If you look at this field, Hayden, is there one here that you'd like to see in the Cox Plate?
No. There's I'd probably being a little bit nasty on Superstorm. Who's a horse who's got tremendous amount of upside, and I haven't finished doing all the work as yet on the internationals, but they to me don't have Cox Plate profiles. Looking at them on face value, they're 2 horses that I would shy away from a Cox Plate perspective at this stage of their careers.
Well, this is
my man Damien Lane, Frosty, has he got off Elephant?
Yeah, I've got Luke Curry down on the TAB website. What's happened there?
So he's Damien. I got Frosty down as riding the Chosen One.
He's on the Chosen One.
Yeah. So
he must have just booked it in advance and didn't know Elephant was going to that race. Yeah.
So we've got 2 horses here who are progressive, Elephant and Sierra Sue. The market's going to trend towards them because it's going to have a little bit of unknowns about itself. The race is a little bit of a mess. There's a couple here who could definitely sprint well early in the campaign. I was drawn to Superstorm. He's the runner that I really wanted to be with. But with this weather the way it is, I may have to take a little neutral take on him. And if he beats me, so be it. Elephant 100% has the right profile for the race, a race of this nature. And then there's a couple there. Most notably, Realm of Flowers is a horse who I think can sprint well fresh. Whether it can get close enough to beat them, I'm not sure. But this race, this is a pretty poor race in terms of the expectation of a race of this nature.
Yeah, well, past winners of this race include Who Begot You, 2-time winner, Sunline and Northerly both won this race. Happy Trails in 2011, Happy Trails was 2012, Fearonte 2013, The Cleaner in 14 and 15, Homesman in 2019, Humidor last year. So some nice horses there history-wise. I put out the question on Twitter, which of these horses would not look out of place or would look most suited in a Cox Plate? I think the answer is Superstorm, but I agree. I'm sort of worried about how the track might play for Superstorm if it really gets chopped up. Question from Lachlan Chapman. How on earth do we assess all the Lloyd Williams runners? I've been off the mark with these horses for years. I almost crossed them out of the form guide. Dawn Patrol's $14 in this race. And then Port Guillaume is a horse that was well fancied for some of the majors this time last year, but didn't. I think it might have had a little injury and hasn't raced for 12 months. So there's a couple of runners that make this race interesting as well.
Yeah, Dawn Patrol, he's a nice horse. I don't think he's any world beater. He's just a nice, progressive horse. He looks more of a staying cup style horse to me than a sharp, miler. It's going to be pretty tricky.
People are going to look and see he ran second to Tiger Moth over 2,000 metres.
Yeah, they will. But he's had 252 days in between the run in Ireland at the Curragh. Then he's left Ireland, so he's left there quite fit. But he's had the 70 days in between runs and he's quarantined since. So he's pretty much going to come out of quarantine straight onto a racetrack. So your market might know a little bit more about this horse. Be interested to see how they react. But him and the other one are the type of international that I would take on going into a race like this. They're not going to have to do much to win, though. That's the scary part.
Yeah, you're right. And that's why I sort of kept coming back to Superstorm as the horse with a bit of class at this sort of distance. We know when Superstorm ran in an all-star mile 18 months ago, he produced a +5 type figure to run second to his stablemate Regal Power and ran a nice race behind Alligator Blood in the Guineas 18 months ago. We didn't really see the best of him last prep.
Don't underestimate in races of this nature what's required here.
Yeah.
And with his race shape, I'm finding it hard to see how Elephant misses the top 3.
Yeah, fair assessment there. And I just on Elephant, I thought I'm interested to see what odds they put up Elephant versus Sierra Sue, because they both ran similar numbers over the similar trip, but seeing the tab, the Elephant's $5 and Sierra Sue's $5.50, so they haven't actually got much between them, and I don't think there is too much between them. But yeah, I think Danny O'Brien's pretty bullish about Superstorm, but the track leaves it in doubt. For me, I don't think it's really a day that I'm overly excited about from a betting perspective. Clearly, Nature Strip looks a bit of a standout, and I'm keen to see what Zaaki does. But how about you, mate? Is there something that you'll be launching into?
No, not so much launching into. I rarely do that. It's more of an even spread across the day with 6 to 8 bets for me. There's other runners there. Moonee Valley is somewhere where I love betting at Moonee Valley, and these race cards are normally quite fruitful when you pull them all apart and get stuck into them. But there's so many unknowns. There is a lot of danger around this. Like, I'll give you an example. Going to race 6, I think I would have a little bit of an edge there with Argentia. She's a really nice horse, progressive, Friedman Oliver, inside draw. Everything just points towards her being extremely hard to beat. Stablemate, the Danger Zoo, Zarzarella. I think I've got a couple of overrated ones in there that the market's trying to talk themselves into, but I don't think they're any good at all. So that's I would just step into a horse like that and think I'm just going to make some money. But with the track the way it is, with the unknowns the way they are, I can't make that decision until tomorrow. Just, another piece of the puzzle, mate. That's why we go and have a look in Sydney. And there's other states in the country if we need to find one or two.
All right. I think I've covered all the questions there. Actually, there is one more. Can Hayden throw in a sneaky Sha Tin tip? I noticed he had an interest in Hong Kong last season. That's from Roger Noakes.
Yeah, dangerous time to be Hong Kong, very different setup to us where everybody goes out for a spell at the same time. Horses, trainers, jockeys, and punters included. Everybody spells at the same time. So you get a wrath of horses here who come up anywhere between the 60 and 90 days in terms of breaks. So they've had light breaks and then they come back in for the new season. You get an influx of new horses from all around the world. So there is a lot of unknowns, and from a betting point of view and from a fan's point of view, I find it enjoyable over the first, say, 4 weeks of Hong Kong just to sit back and really watch and start to get a handle on, we've got an expectation from a rider point of view that Joe Moreira and Zach Purton will once again come out and dominate the season. But from horses' point of view, we've got some new horses there. And we've got to see how horses come back. So in terms of tipping, it's difficult to tip. Race 4 is an interesting race. It's a Class 1, 1,200 metres. You can have a little bit of faith. Horse who went to a new level last campaign, Lucky Patch, is very talented. and he's very progressive. I think he can go to the next level this campaign at 1,200, 1,400 metres. His last win was excellent. Jerry Chow rides him. He'll be hard to beat. Very interesting horse in that race, and one you want to put a circle around. Dangerous runner is a horse called Nabu Attack. He raced in Australia under the name Command and Conquer up in Brisbane. By memory, he may have wore the Steve Tregay colours, you know, the red top with the white bottom. I think that's the Incentivize.
It was, yep.
Colours from up in Brisbane. He was an excellent winner. He's had one start in Hong Kong. He was dominant and smashed the clock. IVR figures through the roof. He's a really nice horse. So they're two horses in race 4 that I'd 100% want to keep an eye on. Race 10 is another interesting race on the day. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
Casper Founds.
Runs for Casper Founds. He's another one he's been really progressive. He continued to improve all campaign, got stronger and stronger. He peaked his last run in July over a mile. He was really good. Another one who went to a new level. He's dangerous in a race like this. And if you go right down towards the bottom, horse number 12, good friend of the show, makes his Hong Kong debut.
Zabrowski.
A horse that we were looking at from a Derby perspective in Australia. He resumes here over 1,400, and he's no slouch over 1,400. He's a horse who could progress quickly, 1,400 up to a mile. You know, he's going to be targeting something around the 2,000 metre mark over there. So they're some horses that I would keep an eye on. But from betting on horses over there first up, very, very difficult. So sit back, watch and enjoy. You know, you don't have to make a day of it. A lot of people in lockdown got nothing to do, so you may as well watch them anyway. But I like to sit down at the end of the day and watch all the replays back to back so I can get a feel of the whole card. But from a Hong Kong perspective, that's where the world's going to start from me.
All right. And one quick shout out to Grant Jones, who got on our page last week after we had posted our tips. Made us aware of a little promo Tab had on their website in Racing Extras for Probabile and Behemoth, both to run top 3, $4.50. You took the full $50 that Tab was allowing you to bet. I just bet my $30 because I'm a bit of a chicken, but that was easy money. This week we've got Zaaki and Cascadian, both to run top 3 at $4. That might be a nice one to keep me interested.
Yeah, I think that might keep a few people interested to be honest. Yeah, I took the full 50 last week, and a few family members took the few full 50 as well. So there was a few 50s going around.
Well,
and the sun shines.
250, isn't it? No, $225. I might have a little play of that Zaaki Cascadian place double. Better than the $1.72 if you multi them up just on their place stats. All right, mate. Good to chat. For me, it's not a massive punting day, but it'll be one to watch. Actually, there was one question that I forgot to get to. Is there a horse that that you want to watch here looking later into the spring? I'll see if I can find that question, who asked that question. But that might have come from James Allpress as well.
Looking into the spring horses that, it's really impossible to steer him away from horses like Nature Strip and Zaaki. So Nature Strip's a horse who's going to shape the Everest market the whole campaign. Win, lose or draw, he'll have a major effect on that. Anything dominant from Zaaki, if he was to draw away from this field, would really put him hard at the head of the betting in the Cox Plate. I know he's there already, but he would start to assert some dominance over that market moving forward. Your milers, Cascadian, Think It Over, etc. They're take turns sort of performers, so they're difficult. I am excited about race 10. Those two runners are Tissue and Cephas, heading towards that handicap mile in Sydney.
Yep, sir.
their market shapers, those two. So, you know, they're going to be horses that the public, the handicapper, the weight handicapper, etc., they're going to really want to be on their side. So they're interesting horses.
I think there was news this week that Glenn Boss is trying to convince Mick Price to send Ayrton to the Epsom. So I think he'd be pretty hard to beat if he headed to a race like that.
He's not a bad horse, Ayrton. I think we may have mentioned him once or twice.
And Bossy's not bad at the Randwick Mile. One more quick one, because I know we've gone overs here, but Tab also have a market in their racing extras. How many Group 1 wins Zaaki will win between now and the 31st of December? $13 if he wins 3 or more.
I'll let you waste your time with that.
$34 if he wins 4 or more.
That could be in the paddock Monday.
Could be. Mate, thanks for your time. Good luck on the weekend. Who are you tipping
to
in
all
the footy? Cats to win tonight?
Giants for me. Giants, and in the other game,
Dogs, Lions.
I thought the Bulldogs did enough to be competitive. It's an interesting race. One of them is going to fall over and get smacked, I think.
Interesting race. Interesting game.
Yeah, interesting race. We were going to discuss it earlier, but if you want to go to the races in the near future, I'd go out and locate yourself 2 vials of Pfizer.
Yes, that's true. There was a story today, Dan Andrews, if you want to go to big sporting events, you're going to need to be vaccinated. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of vaccination policy with the big majors, potentially even Cup Week. But that's just, a thesis, but who knows. Mate, thanks for your time. Have a good weekend.
So good luck to your bride who's on overs.
Thanks, mate. Catch up.
Enjoy it. Bye, mate.